And welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thank you so much, as always, for checking the series out. You know what to do. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. I am so excited today to be talking with Roger Earle of Foghat about a brand new record, a live album called 8 Days on the Road. Hi, Roger.
Hi, Kyle. How you doing?
I'm great, man. It's a pleasure to see you on here. Congrats on this live record. This has been a really fun one to listen to.
Thank you. We recorded it at the end of 19. And then, of course, COVID hit and we were off for a year and a half, and it's our 50th anniversary. So we were really pleased with the way it sounded. It was recorded at Daryl's House Club, upstate New York in Pauling. Fabulous sounding room. We don't usually get a chance to play such a intimate venue, but that particular weekend we had a sprinter band. We did 3 or 4 shows in a row. They were all between like 300 and 400 miles apart, so we can drive them. Really?
Back in the van.
Yeah, we're in the band, man. Daryl's House Club is fantastic. They have some incredible recording equipment there. They had a 5-camera high-def shoot, and we've been doing this for about 50 years, so we can pretty much. Actually, Foghat's always done a bunch of live stuff. Over the years, we've released, obviously our live album in '77 that went double platinum. It's always been about playing live with this band. We take pride in that. Nobody sort of gets whacked before the show or drinks or anything like that. Do what you want afterwards.
Just not before, it's business.
But yeah, playing music is like it's special. You got to treat it special. People pay with good money to come and see you. They don't want to see some idiot drooling on himself and falling over.
Right.
So we've adhered to that throughout the years. I may have played with a couple of hangovers once or twice in youth, but not anymore.
It's the way it changes through the years. But you're right. I mean, when I look back at Earle's history and just the tour horses that you've been right from the get-go, right from day one, and to continue to play these songs at the level that you all have played them. I mean, these songs are timeless. How do you find that you still tap into that part of the song that keeps it special? Are you able to connect with it in the same way that you always have?
Practice. I remember when we were doing the live album in 1977, we rented the RCA mobile unit. Nick Jameson, our longtime producer, also the bass player on the Fall for the City album, was doing the honors. And what happened was we were supposed to go in the studio, but Rod and Dave were a little bit short on tunes and stuff. And I said, well, let's do a live album, because I would record every night. I would have cassettes back then. And I would listen to it. My front of house engineer, Bob Coffey, would give me a cassette every night just to check tempos, feel, make sure everybody's, in the right spot. There was a lot of youthful enthusiasm. So getting back to I have, having a year and a half off because of the COVID nightmare was, it took me a couple of weeks to get back up to speed. As far as I practice pretty much every day, every other day, or maybe I'll take a few days off, but I either sit down on my pads and work with my hands and feet. But playing drums is there's a mechanical side of it. You have to be, there's a mechanics to it, left, right, left, double, and that. I love
it's a nice drum solo.
Yeah, drum solo. But actually, I haven't done one yet. I usually do one, but most of the dates at the moment have been 75 minutes. So if you're we just played with Todd Rundgren at the Moon Dance Jam. That was fun. Todd was absolutely fantastic. He helped us out on our first and second album. Mm-hmm. He played piano and guitar on some stuff. he did some rough mixes for us and like generally pointed us in the right direction. So I hadn't seen him since '74. Anybody gets a chance to see Todd Rundgren, go out and oh, I'm sorry, we're supposed to be promoting our record. Sorry, I'd rather talk about Todd Rundgren.
It is Rock and Roll Hall of Fame year. I understand. All props to Todd Rundgren. You know, it's
that's right. That's right.
So, well, I would say then the flip side, then so that's how you connect with these songs after so many years. But has your relationship changed with any of these songs, especially with different players over the years in different roles? Do you find that changes the way that you connect with a song when someone else is in that position?
Yeah. When you interpret the way you interpret it, like when we lost, when Rob Price, our original guitar player, lead and slide player, left, Brian Bassett, our lead and slide guitar player, also produces and engineers everything for us. We played with Dave, Lonesome Dave, for a while. So Brian's actually been with us like for 24 years, probably. He's actually toured with Rod as well, him and Rod in the same band. So they connected on that level. And also, well, the hardest part, I think, well, there were always hard parts actually. Like when Dave left, when Dave passed, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do at the time. I just wanted to take a break because that was really tough on us. And I was getting a bunch of songs on cassettes and stuff. Maybe even CDs had come out by then. And I listened to people, and I wasn't really impressed. But I remembered one time we played a show when Dave was alive in Cleveland, and on the bill was Humble Pie. And now Stevie Marriott was the original lead singer in Humble Pie. Now Charlie Huhn is the lead singer in Humble Pie, and they were opening up for us. So I said to Dave, let's go out and see what this singer's got under his fingernails. He's singing our songs, Stevie Marriott songs. Stevie and I became really good mates. We did tons of shows together. What a riot he was. So we go out there. The band starts. Dave and I are standing on the side of the stage. The band starts playing, and I don't know, they didn't sound all that good. And then Charlie Huhn started singing Humble Pie songs, and I'm going, wow. I mean, anybody who can give a close facsimile of Stevie Marriott's beautiful How, is a great singer as far as I'm concerned. So I remembered that. And then I said to my road manager at the time, his name was Mike. I said, Mike, do you have the phone number of that guy who sang with Humble Pie? He said, yeah. I said, okay. You think you could get it for me? He said, yeah. You know what his name is? Yeah. So anyway, I'm being cruel. Thank you, Mike. I got Charlie's phone number. I called him and asked him if he was interested in joining Foghat, and he said yes, he was. So I sent him 30 songs. My girlfriend at the time said, "I only think that's rather a lot. There's a lot of songs to learn." I said, if he wants the gig, he'll learn it. It was also giving me time to sort of deal, with losing Dave. And I didn't want to jump right back in it. Anyway, Charlie called me up about 2 months later. He was working at Ford on the line, and he was putting in headliners in expeditions and stuff. Hard work. But anyway, he called me up and said, I got it. He came to the house. We sat in the living room, and he started singing songs, and I played on my practice pad. It sounded like Humble Pie had joined Foghat, which I thought was pretty cool. And that's it. He's a great singer, and more importantly for me with Charlie is that he's always ready to sing. Dave was the same way, always ready. There's no hesitation about it. I think sometimes Charlie sort of is a little, I don't know, he's not quite. In some ways, he's a bit like Dave. Dave was very shy, but when Dave got on stage, he'd sort of light up like a downtown Christmas tree. And Charlie's a little bit more reserved, but he has a great voice, and he's always ready to play. He loves going on stage, as do I. It's all about the music.
Yeah. Well, you all just continue to sound so good. And again, I'll bring that album that we're talking about back up again here with 8 Days on the Road. You really get a feel for that. And that title, I mean, I know it's a title, it's a track that comes from the Rock and Roll Outlaws album, but just that phrase, 8 Days on the Road, as we talk about, how much time you all have spent on tour through the years, it starts to, well, I guess it's always made a lot of sense to me that, two of the big themes that, arrive in a lot of your classic songs are the road and the vehicles that are on it. So, I mean, that's become such a big part of the lore. Was it just a natural thing because of how much time that you all were out there?
It's more like 80,000 days on the road. I always dug the song. I always liked the arrangement of the song. It's an old R&B song. I'm trying to remember who it was originally done by. I can't remember now. But I always liked the song. It sounds like a road song. It's like it's good fun to play too, because I get to play double bass drums in it and like pound away and play as hard as I can. I remember when we recorded it in Rockfield in Wales, I think. And I remember Nick Jameson was producing it, I think. And he said, "Hit the drums harder, Rog." And I said, "I am." He said, "No, hit them a little harder." And that's where my middle name came from, Itamad.
Itamad.
Sounds sort of like little, like maybe some Middle Eastern promise. Itamad.
Right. Well, yeah, I should also bring up, one of the most infamous of all of those songs was Slow Ride, which I let me first say was such an important song in my own coming of age, which happened much later than when the song came out. That song was still, I think, for me at the time, the movie Dazed and Confused had a lot to do with it. It was so prominently used in one of the greatest moments in that. And it's been used a lot in films. I mean, it is. Does it come to a point where you start to associate that with any, major movie moments?
Not really, but I'll give you one example. When Guitar Hero came out, that wasn't us actually playing. They did a pretty good facsimile of the guitars and vocals, and the drums didn't sound like me. Yes, they did. They were fine. 1, 2, 3, 4. We had a whole bunch of like younger audience because of Guitar Hero. We had like 6, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds coming to the show going, digging these old rock and rollers. And it was, you can't pay for that kind of publicity. Mm-hmm. And I remember at the time there was another band that was on there and they wanted to sue for some reason, Guitar Hero. And they called our management. And I said, "Don't be stupid. What is wrong with you people? Free publicity and you're complaining?" I don't think that band's around anymore anyway. We are.
You are. And let me say, there's another point of your history I want to bring up because I feel like it's often overlooked, and it just happens to be the 40th anniversary of this era, talking about the Girls to Chat and Boys to Bounce. Like, I love this era of Foghat, and I do know it gets looked over. It's kind of said this was you all experimenting with the new wave sounds that were going on at the time. Was that true for you?
Not necessarily for me, but Dave, Dave was the main songwriter in the band. Rod Price, I think, had left the band by now. And yeah, Dave was checking out some new stuff. How many times? We are a bunch of 3-chord wonders. My older brother once said, he's 4 years older than me. He's a piano player. He played with Mungo Jerry, by the way. So he has he played piano. He has something to say about it. He said, Rog, anything other than 3 chords has to be viewed with a certain amount of suspicion. And that sort of stuck with us anyway. It's a basic, blues, rock and roll theme. So, it's I'm not sure quite how to answer that.
Well, I guess it's interesting to me because seeing especially bands of your same era, you know, when you get to when rock and pop starts shifting the way it did, like I know that critics were always hard on the bands when they tried new sounds that would come along with that. Fans usually had a problem with it too. And for an artist, you just want to try things. You just want to, you know, you experiment, and that's got to be a weird give and take.
I mean, on my end, I mean, you know, what I grew up listening to, you know, rock and roll, rhythm and blues, jazz to some degree, but mainly blues and rock and roll. And same with Dave. Dave had tremendous knowledge of all things music. In fact, I think he was a closet drummer, because every time he'd put his headphones on and he'd be listening to some music, he'd be sitting there going, "You playing drums, Dave?" He'd go, "What?" No, it was, I think, my job is to play for the song. I think that's one of the reasons that I managed to stay in bands, that I played on lots of records as well, other people's stuff. It's because I play for the song. You listen to the words, you listen to the music, the changes, and that's what you're supposed to do. You play for the song. I mean, like all my original, the reason I got into music and the songs I listened to, I always listened to the drums as a supportive instrument. I mean, I could never be Buddy Rich, because Buddy was he was on another level. I'm just a mere mortal as far as that goes. I play for the song. That's, and if you go in there and start sort of being overly clever and doing drum solos in a ballad, it's not going to work. The rest of the band's going to say, "Can you go away and come back another day?" So when Dave started writing the songs, but I actually agree with you on that album, Boys to Chat and Girls to Bounce. No, Girls to Chat and Boys to Bounce.
Right.
I enjoyed making the record. I really enjoyed it. I loved playing it. And again, you know, I was playing for the groove, the tune. It's not about sort of, though I did have to learn a couple of different things. I mean, I think when anytime you play a new song, you know, the way you approach it, Dave would come up with the song and then the band pretty much would arrange it. Like Third Time Lucky, Dave came up with the song, but the band arranged that, and my brother played keyboards on it. But Girls to Chat and Boys to Bounce was a very, I don't think it was such a stretch for us. Admittedly, there weren't any blues songs on there that we changed around to suit us, but it was music is music. My taste in music is a lot wider now than it was when I was like 15, 16 years old. It was like, no, no, don't like that. So it's got more than 3 chords.
I love that philosophy. A lot of my favorite bands, that's sort of the philosophy that, you know, they keep to. Well, I'll bring it back around again. 8 Days on the Road. This is such a fun record to listen to, and hearing that you guys are still, you know, continuing to you know, work on the future. I mean, there's another record on that you're working on. Is that right?
Yeah. We have a studio down in DeLand, Florida, where the rest of the band lives. In fact, Brian Bassett, who's our head engineer and the bright one in the band, we were down there a couple of months ago, set up put new heads on the drums, retuned everything. We did some stuff with the floor to make the drums sound better, because the drums don't sound good. The rest of the band might as well go home. That's my philosophy. And so then we plug in the board and start things up. And of course, some of the faders worked and some of them didn't. The board is 21 years old, and I'm sure technology has improved. So Brian's sitting over the board like going, "Well, this is not working, Rog." And I said, "Well, let's get a new one." It's not like the old days, like when we had our studio up here in Port Jefferson, near where I live. We had a Neve board. It was secondhand, and it cost us $750,000. I think they're $2 million new. Right. You can get a board now for like anywhere between $3,000 and $10,000 or less, or just sit on your computer for some of the brighter ones out there. So making music has in fact become a lot easier. Microphones are still expensive, getting really good microphones, but contemporary musicians have it a little easier, but they also have it harder because they can't earn a living. I mean, I don't know about, it must be awful for new bands trying to find somewhere to work, somewhere to play, and somebody to even give them a record deal, because it's a tough time out there for new music to make it. And often I think a lot of them are just maybe a guitar player or a duo. What about the drums? And they have drum machines now. I can play to a click track.
Right. Got no soul. That's the old saying, right?
No soul, no.
No soul.
No. Song's got to have some movement.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I do agree. I look forward to hearing what that next record brings too. But in the meantime, Roger, again, congrats and thanks on this new live album, 8 Days on the Road. It's been a great listen, and it's been really fun talking to you today. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Nice talking to you as well. Be safe out there. Thank you.
You too, man. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.